Canada. I'm Elena.
Nathan.
I'm Raph. And our other group mate, Jean, is in here today.
And we'll be discussing Gilt Groupe going into Canada. As the video said, Gilt Groupe is a members-only retail site that features flash sales that usually last about 36 hours. It features designer brands, accessories, footwear. It's a lifestyle website, and it also features luxury trips and services that caters to women, men, and children of all ages. And this is just some screenshots of the website. Okay. Gilt was established in the U.S. in 2007, and it received immediate success. In 2009, after significant research and development, Gilt went into Japan, and they did some minor tweaks, but it's extremely similar to the U.S. version. They started the iPhone app specifically for the more technologically advanced and the fashionista on the go. In Canada, there's a very big desire for these online retailers, and Gilt Groupe is valued around $500 million as of last year, and they're hoping to go public as soon as 2012. The Canadian market is very attractive for Gilt because they have something called brand envy, where a lot of times Canadians living close to the border will even travel into the U.S. just to go to malls to shop for U.S. goods because the selection is more desirable. But sometimes when they get there, they're disappointed at what they find. And so Gilt kind of remedies this because people know exactly what's going on sale, when it's going on sale, and it's convenient.
So I'm going to talk about the political environment that's in Canada. The Canadian government requires a formal investment review process, and it's seen that there's a high review threshold for American FDI, but it doesn't matter because FDI in Canada for 2008 was 504.9 billion Canadian dollars, and 58% of this was actually American FDI. And this was a 13.6 billion increase from 2007. So this is a good thing for Gilt. And going down the list, it's NAFTA, the organization that Canada is part of, ensures national treatment, which basically says that the Canadian government has to treat any foreign company the same way it treats its domestic companies. That's basically a national treatment. And there's also the provision of investment incentives given by the Canadian government to foreign investors. And the best part about this is the government, when they're giving out these incentives, they actually tell the company that, okay, we're giving you an incentive and you have to do this like in this and this manner. But they don't have any mechanisms to check that, so which is a good thing because Gilt can basically take the incentives and do whatever it pleases. And going down, there are barriers for importing U.S. wine and spirits, and this could be a problem because Gilt is a luxury goods retailer, and in the future they might think about offering high-end wines or spirits if they want, but they can't do that because of this barrier. But the good thing is the Canadian government is looking forward to the privatization of LCBOs. The LCBO is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and they basically have a monopoly on all the sales of liquors, wine, spirits in Canada. So once that's privatized, we can hope that the barriers are removed. Talking about negotiation of special undertakings, when the government investment review board, they often give you like incentives as in special undertakings that the government might tell Gilt that, okay, we'll give you incentives in return for you promoting Canadian goods. This will be actually a good thing for Gilt because there's a lot of Canadian luxury brands like D Squared, and they're very well known for their high-priced luxury apparel and cosmetics. So if Gilt can sell D Squared goods in Canada, then they can probably sell it to the US, which in return will expand their product base and make them a more credible retailer, online retailer. The investor, they do have their right to private ownership. However, the government has the right to expropriate, and this can be a problem. As was the case in December 2008, there was a U.S. company operating in Newfoundland and Labrador, and they expropriated that without paying any compensation, and that whole deal is still going on. So this is one risk that is involved with investing in Canada. And investors have full access to Canada's legal systems and NAFTA's laws and regulations in terms of expropriation. If they feel like they weren't treated justly, they can always go to the legal system. And NAFTA also has a lot of laws going against this. One problem is that Canada lacks a full ICSID agreement, which is the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. And they still haven't signed on a full agreement because they need provincial legislation for that to happen, and this might not happen in the future. So this is another problem. WIPO is basically the World Intellectual Property Organization, and they haven't ratified those treaties in Canada, and this is a problem because signing this treaty will make sure that online resources are copyrighted. But since they haven't ratified this yet, we might expect to see counterfeit websites that might be a threat to Gilt. And if Gilt comes across any problems with corruption and bribery, the US FCPA, which is a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, they work in the US and abroad, so they can work to help out the company in case they come across any corruption or bribery issues. And there's also the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention. And Canada's recent FTAs require all their trading partners to criminalize active and passive bribery. Active bribery is when you offer bribes to a public official, and passive bribery is when the official asks for bribes. And in terms of the demographics, more than 75% of the people live in cities. So it's important that Gilt focuses all their attention in the two big cities, which is Toronto and Vancouver. And the primary ethnic division is the French-speaking Quebec and the rest of Canada. So Gilt really needs to have its website with the option to be seen in French, because a lot of people only read and write French. In terms of the politics, currently Canada is being ruled by the Conservative Party under the leadership of Stephen Harper. You can't really say anything bad about him because his policy priorities have been pretty much consistent. And yeah, those are just some of the things he's been doing. Culture environment. Well, the culture is pretty much similar to the US, except they speak French in Quebec, which is a large part of the country. And the service sector is 2/3 of the national output. 75% of the total labor is allocated to the service sector, which is a good thing for Gilt because we are in the service sector, and we're going to need labor that are well expertise in the retail and other service sectors. And we use Hofstede's cultural dimension to look at the Canadian culture, and it seems that they're more individualistic, which is a good thing because they'll have a higher disposable income, which would lead to more consumer spending, so they'll spend more on our website. And the lower power distance levels make sure that the company, the organization is running well, whatnot, and low uncertainty avoidance levels shows that they're better innovators than implementers. So we can give the subsidiary more autonomy.
As far as the economic environment goes, the Canadian dollar is a free-floating currency, so they're influenced by supply and demand forces as well as government intervention. The value of the Canadian dollar historically has been weaker than the United States, and as you can see in this graph, during the financial crisis of 2008, it strengthened significantly as the American dollar depreciated. Competitive positioning-wise, there's room for concern if the Canadian dollar is depreciating against the US dollar. When it comes to competitive positioning, if Gilt Canada enters, that means Gilt will acquire assets in Canadian dollars, warehouses, inventory, etc. This would affect your competitive positioning negatively if the Canadian dollar depreciates against the US dollar, since when we have to repatriate assets, inventories, revenues, the amount would be worth less in US dollars.
I'm going to talk about competition. So Gilt would be the Canadian online shopping site, but it gets competition from department stores such as American Apparel and Holt Renfrew. Holt Renfrew's is like the Canadian Barney's kind of. But the Gilt Group does have several strengths against their competitors. A few things are such as it's an exclusive high-end online store. They're also easily recognized by any fashion-savvy person. They have huge consumer base, and that probably passes over in Canada as well. And they offer a broad of high-end designer products for much lower prices than you would get at regular department stores. And these two things are basically what gives them the edge over other competitors. And another strength is that their business model. Gilt is focused on doing limited sales and promoting sales, and this generates advertising for the products and the labels they're selling. So it's kind of like a twofold effect. Like they're making money as well as they're getting, they're putting the brands that they sell out there. And when it comes to their rivals that use the same flash sale business model, like you have depicted their Hot Look and Rue La La. Gilt Groupe has an advantage over them because they're based out of Manhattan and their warehouse is in Brooklyn, and that's New York is, I'm guessing, pretty close to Canada because it's just a few hours drive. So they have that proximity advantage. And according to the Russ Lee's New York Times article, Gilt is valued at $500 million, whereas Hot Look was purchased by Nordstrom's for only $180 million. So which shows that Gilt has the potential to make bigger revenues than Hot Look. And Gilt is planning to go IPO in 2012, which will help raise funds for further expansion.
Okay, I'm going to go through this quickly, but for the mode of entry, Gilt Groupe should use direct exporting, and they should begin by exporting to Canada with the standard 18% shipping surcharge that their competitors also use in Canada. Gilt Groupe should maintain their warehouse in the United States for now and just focus on shipping and customer relations. And eventually, if it's successful, they should move their warehouses into Canada. The merchandise from Gilt Groupe arrives faster than their competitors because Gilt products are available in their warehouses when the sale starts, as opposed to their competitors who actually don't order it from the distribution center of the brand until the product's been purchased. Okay. Gilt's decision to internationalize into Canada is opportunistic. They're pursuing potential, exploiting market growth rates, and it's also defensive. It's opportunistic because Gilt's online advertising and word of mouth has enticed Canadian consumers, and there's already a market for Gilt Groupe. And actually, a lot of Canadians that are fashion savvy buy from Gilt Groupe, have it shipped to a friend or a relative in the US, and then have the relative ship it back to them in Canada. It's pursuing potential because the potential of Gilt Canada is huge, with the Canadian market ranking number 12 of the top markets for online operations. It's exploiting market growth rates in Canada because the Canadian e-commerce market is on the rise. In 2008, Canadians ordered $15.1 billion in online products and services. This number is up from $12.8 billion the previous year. It's defensive because Gilt has missed out on the first mover advantage because actually all of their competitors are servicing Canada right now. With Nordstrom purchasing Gilt's main competitor, Hot Look, it is essential for Gilt to act strategically to defend and expand their market share.
Our target market is geared towards men and women between the ages of 18 and 50, with a continued emphasis on the female population. The website already does this through products, advertising added products for women, such as facial and cosmetic products. And Canada's large women's clothing revenue, for instance, 58.8% of apparel retail market segmentation in 2007, we can continue aiming towards women in a more direct manner. Because Canadians are so brand aware, it's easy to attract a wide age range of consumers. Not to mention that according to government figures, in 2005, Canadian adults over 18 placed more than 50 million orders worth more than $7.9 billion online. However, recent increase in household debt due to the recent economic crisis means that income may not rise in the near future. Although this means less disposable income per household, it also means consumers will most likely look to discount shop. Based off 2009 statistical reports, 33% of online shoppers bought clothing, jewelry, and/or accessories, and the top 25% of those online shoppers spent an average of 4,210 Canadian dollars. Because Canada handled the economic crisis so well and the household debt problem has somewhat alleviated since then, we would intend to direct or target towards consumers with that average of the 4,210. product service and product/service adaptations. The Canadian population as a whole is highly brand aware, and they have a strong desire for U.S. brands and clothing. However, desirable marquee names such as Macy's, Lord & Taylor, and Saks Fifth Avenue, and specialty brands such as J. Crew, Kenneth Cole, and Anthropologie are missing from the Canadian landscape. Because mostly all of Gilt's current high-end products are available in these desired department stores, not much adaptation is necessary, but specialty chains such as J. Crew, Kenneth Cole, and Anthropologie would be added to please Canadian consumers. Because these brands are still fairly high-end, so the company image isn't compromised. Also, the addition of several mainstream popular Canadian retailers such as Winners, HomeSense, and Reitmans would be added for familiarity and relatability purposes. Again, because these are more higher-end popular retailers, the company image wouldn't be compromised. And also because the main cities in Canada, such as Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, are so far apart, domestic online shopping would just boost convenience for consumers. Due to severe weather conditions in Canada, also a greater emphasis would be placed on winter clothing in the form of larger markdowns and added variety. Jet Setter and City, Gilt's discounted hotel pricing extension and service extension would also remain in harmony with current website offerings due to Canada's large baby boomer retiring population who can afford and want to travel and spend money on services. Overall, the website would remain fairly unchanged so as to maintain a consistent level of Gilt Groupe sophistication and practicality, thus increasing shopping ease and pleasure to those unsatisfied Canadian shoppers. Pricing is directly related in terms of Gilt Groupe to relations with brands and agreement of price levels and discounts. Because of this, pricing per brand is directly correlated with how expensive or high-end the brand and or product is. Because Canadians are increasing their online shopping, interested in purchasing U.S. clothing brands, and have no desire to travel to American stores, prices can remain relatively current to website pricing. Everything there shows original retail price and the new markdown. Typically all items are reduced to around 50% off, ranging from clothing in high hundreds, reduced to the $50 or $60 range, or something as expensive as jewelry, high-end jewelry being reduced from, let's say, $68,000 to $23,000. Due to
20 minutes.
Can I go through really quickly? Sorry. The distribution, really quickly, UPS has been in Canada since 1975. They're our main distributor, so we'll probably go with them. Canadian highways are very advanced. Infrastructure is huge in Canada. It's a very modern country, so we can deal with that pretty well. As far as potential partners, we could partner with companies like Roots or Winners, existing large retailers that already have large market share in Canada. There's demand for retail and everything like that. And then promotion, we could do buzz campaign and internet campaign. We can link up with, there's a L'Oreal Fashion Week, it's semi-annual, and they held that, so possibly forming an advertising campaign with them would really get the word out, and then possibly ads and billboards. And Toronto, we thought about just targeting Toronto at first and entering it there, kind of testing out our product, and then moving into the rest of the country. So, thank you.